I might break you, or at least break your brain a little bit right now.
Come on with this.
Because you know what we're about to see?
Come on.
We're about to see me admitting I was wrong.
What?
This needs to be said.
Huh?
I know. I don't like doing it, and I don't do it often.
I don't know where this is going, but I ain't never seen it. So go on with this.
Everybody knows that I love bragging about, reading, and writing about stuff.
That is.
I equally dislike admitting when I'm wrong.
Oh my
I
God.
hate it. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I think I'm right about everything.
I think you're amazing at it.
Shout out to a Twitter account called the Billy Donovan Era. With the record of the Bulls win-loss in parentheses behind it. It's a Twitter account that I recognize from following us way back in the day.
Yes,
I'm talking to a dude who listened to Locked On back in the day, like when the Jimmy Butler trade happened.
Yeah.
Long-time listener and appreciate. That person on Twitter said when I had my tweet reacting to, Lowry winning the award, Jimmy going off for 56 last night, and how much it hurt my soul as a Bulls fan, they said, I remember you hating on Jimmy Butler being like a big piece of your shtick back in the day.
Okay.
Which is not wrong. I, for many years, have enjoyed taking jabs at Jimmy and or the Jimmy stands out there, mostly because I have found it entertaining to poke the bear. That is Jimmy Butler stands.
All right, Dylan Brooks.
Like you.
Get him, Will.
Our friend Will, our friend Mark K, our friend Salim from Bulls Gold. I know and love lots of Jimmy Butler stands out there.
Yes.
Our producer Steven here at CHGO.
Oh my God.
Diehard Jimmy Butler
Ready
guy.
to fight.
And I like poking them. I did still believe, and I do still believe, and it's why I talked myself into being okay with the Jimmy trade back then, that Jimmy's not the best player on a championship team. Mm-hmm. He came close in the bubble. Came close, and credit to him for that, and I still believe that. But what I've changed my mind about, and what I am admitting that I was wrong about, is that doesn't mean that was a good reason to trade him. I didn't have faith that the Bulls front office back then could build a winner around Jimmy. Not to say that's Jimmy's fault. And I also thought Jimmy coming up short against any LeBron James-led team in the East that they might face in the playoffs. So I talked myself into, well, if that roadblock is in the way anyway, and Jimmy's kind of getting weird and frisky and his ego's exploding after the Dwayne Wade stuff, and I was ready to move on from it. But one of my arguments that I made back then about not wanting to keep Jimmy, or at least being okay with trading him away, is that I was convinced and told anyone who would listen that giving Jimmy at that point in his career a max contract would be a mistake because of not just his age, because he wasn't that old yet, but because of the miles that Tibbs had put on those legs, and that contract would come back to bite the Bulls in the ass. I was wrong. If you had Jimmy Butler for a 5-year stay with the team that drafted you contract over these past 5 years, yes, he's missed some games and some bits and pieces of some seasons in that stretch, but starting with his first season in Minnesota, 59, 65, 58, 52, 57, 64.
These are the games.
So he's not playing 82, 82, 82, 82, or nothing close to it. He's missing games. But when he's out there, he's damn Jimmy Butler. He's got 2 more All-Star appearances since leaving the Bulls, and then he does shit like this in the playoffs.
Yes.
If that player's not worth a max contract, then I don't know what is. And I was wrong. I thought giving Jimmy Butler that contract would be a mistake. And if they had Jimmy Butler on that max contract all these years, they could very well be better off. And I was wrong to use that argument.
So I've heard a lot of those arguments before, and I have things I want to say to them. So one is the Bulls wouldn't have put a winner around Jimmy. 100% agree with that. But I also think if you look at what he's done, does it matter? I mean, he might just win you a playoff series regardless. He's that good. And the second thing is, and Mark K tweeted this out, so I'm just going to read it because he says it better than I probably could. But somebody said to him, Jimmy bet on himself and won. Bulls would have never given him a max contract. The Bulls picked a lane and traded him. It's that simple, really. Mark replied, Chicago sports fans being conditioned to be okay with not paying players and instead keeping their billionaire owners rich is a very weird and sad development. And then he replied and said, in quotes, this is what I'm saying. Our homegrown star, who is a top 10 player in most advanced statistics, who has played himself into a 35% max instead of a 30% max, has got to go because there's no way our billionaire owner should be forced to give him a few $1 million more. And I think we're up against the same sentiment with Zach, which is that you pay your max guys a max contract. Like nickel and diming them for $5 million less on their deal doesn't really impact your ability to do anything on the fringes, because if you're over the cap, then you're not using that money to sign a free agent. Maybe you're a mid-level exception or something like that. But if you're not going up to the salary, above the salary cap, then you're not putting a real team around them anyway. And I think that this narrative that like Bulls fans should be concerned about like preserving cap space is just kind of weird when like the talent isn't there to begin with. If you're like trying to, you know, squeeze it apart so that like you're the Warriors and you can get Steph and Clay and Draymond and Kevin Durant together, that's one thing. But we're talking about like just a team that had like D Wade and Rondo and Jimmy. Like that's just, it's nonsensical. And I think in a lot of ways, the same thing is true with Zach. Like people should not be criticizing Zach for being a max player, because what Zach's contract is almost doesn't matter. He's going to be tradable on it regardless. He's going to play to that level regardless. It's more about, can you put the pieces around him? And given what's gone on with Lonzo and, you know, Vooch is a free agent, like that makes it difficult. And so, yes, maybe Zach like giving back $5 million, but like, is that really worth it? I don't see that as an obstacle. I don't really see why we're criticizing players for getting the money that they have earned and that they deserve.